Howdy, boys and girls. We have reached my favorite point of the college football season because it's when I can stop trying to remember what week it is by the numbers and just remember that it is things that we call things. Like in championship week, it's championship week. Carla, it's championship week.
It's championship week, and I finally have a dog in the fight. Yes.
Look at that, AJ.
It's championship
week.
It's championship week. Championship week.
I think we had some of that for dinner. We had champ and chip for.
Yeah. Shout out to Crappy coming over to my house when I had tacos.
Great stuff.
Guys, you did it the night after I left Pittsburgh. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
We could have hung out. Well, guys, we're not very good internet. We're not very good at planning that things.
Actually, that's not true because we tried. Crappy and I actually did try to get together.
We did try to work that out for last night, but someday it will happen.
We will do a show in person at some point, maybe in year 8.
But for this week, for this championship week, we will championship week. We're going to be satisfied with working on the internet once again. I am Uncle Crappy. This is the Carla and Crappy show. That is Carla down there in Nashville.
Nashville as of about 24 hours ago. Yep.
There is AJ, our Pac-12 / Group of 5 After Dark correspondent, who's going to have some thoughts on a whole bunch of championship games. But before we start on those, we're going to take a look back at the weekend that preceded where we are right now, as we generally do. Carla, do you have a thought or observation about the last weekend?
I do. I have 2 very quick thoughts. The first thought is that although the Cobblestone Inn has a lovely bar, which we talked about last week,
yes.
The one thing it didn't have was the SEC network at the worst possible time. So I watched the first half of LSU Texas A&M and missed the 7 overtimes.
And now, I'm gonna stop you right there because I know how this worked. Mm-hmm. Because AJ, you guys are like the 2-headed monster here because Carla saw all of regulation, and then you basically saw only overtime.
I saw the last play and all 7 overtimes. So I was looking at my phone and I see. All right. If you ever want to know how I watch college football, I do like to watch the late games. But throughout the day on Saturday, because of the magic of internet streaming, I just look at my phone and I open the Score app, right? So I got the Score app right here. There it is. And I just start cruising through the scores, looking for games that might be interesting late. Right? So I'm like, okay, where are my underdogs? Where's Maryland is creeping up on Ohio State? Or what's happening, right? Who's late? And I see LSU is up 31-24, and Texas A&M has the ball on like the 17 with 10 seconds left. And I went, let's go to the SEC network here. And I pulled it up, and I'm watching this last play, and I'm like, they're going to score. This is about to get weird. And they scored, right? Now, let's bring some pieces of this puzzle together. Now, Carla, you didn't watch the game.
I watched the first half.
All right, you watched the first half. That's right.
And then we went back to the hotel, and I missed the second half and all the overtimes.
So what happened prior to the final play of the game is LSU head coach Ed Orgeron, because it was his last game. It was the last game of the regular season, and it looked like LSU was going to win, and they were going to have. They were clearly the second best team. Carla, I don't know if you've heard the story yet.
I have.
Ed Orgeron got a Gatorade bath.
Yes, he did.
And and then A&M scores on the last play of the game. This is very much reminiscent of the LSU Kentucky game from like 2003, the Jared Lorenzen years where it looked like Kentucky was going to beat LSU, and LSU throws the Hail Mary and wins. So LSU gives Ed Orgeron the Gatorade bath, and then they go into the first overtime. LSU kicks a field goal. I'm gonna walk through some of these, right? LSU kicks a field goal. A&M on the ensuing drive completes a pass And then the guy gets hit, fumbles, LSU recovers. Everybody thinks this game is over. Except it was not determined that he made a football move. It was one of those, he caught the ball, and as soon as he caught the ball, defender hits him, ball comes out. They didn't even review it. A&M kicks a field goal. We go to second overtime. And then you're like, okay, second overtime, somebody's going to win here. No. Third overtime. Okay, somebody's got to win this crap. No, nobody's hitting 2-point conversions.
No one's gonna win this game ever.
And then we got into delirium. By about fourth overtime is when we got into delirium, and I believe, let me find the message that I sent. I believe in the fourth overtime, LSU broke out a halfback option for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
It was just spectacular to watch this game and to just watch, because as we talked about earlier, the SEC makes me want to vomit a little bit, but seeing an SEC game end 74-72 in the highest scoring game in the history of FBS and the longest, that touched the Big 12, Pac-12 heart. It would. It is everything you love about college football. I will add one thing, and Carla, we'll get back to you. The sports editor at the publication where I work is an LSU grad. And he was home over the weekend. Did not for the game, but obviously paying attention. His first day back at work was today. And I saw this on Twitter. Someone asked him halfway through this afternoon, "Hey, Tyler, did you see that update on ESPN?" It's like Tyler's like, "No, what was it?" And his buddy said, "A&M just scored again." So yeah. So Carla, we both interrupted your things here, but
that's okay. It was a heck of a game.
That game was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it was a heck of a game that I missed, but I did see a little bit of another game. And so my actual one thing, because that was just the thing that I missed, the actual one thing is, I guess we learned the hard way that an air raid offense doesn't work in snow. Washington State has to be the most upset fan base right now, knowing the way the dominoes fell last weekend. They have just got to be kicking themselves. All they had to do was beat UW. That's all they had to do. And that offense just couldn't do anything in the snow. It just spun. It's like, put on the snow tires. Come on. Didn't happen. And now we have the world's most, I don't know. I don't want to say lackluster, because I think it's going to be a good football game. We're going to talk about it, but less intriguing maybe, or less appealing Pac-12 title game, because at least if you had Wazoo in there, you would have the leech factor, and you would have a team trying to get the Rose Bowl for the first time since 2003. There would be some excitement there, and now I'm just kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Wazoo. University
of Washington's defense is built to stop Washington State. They gave the Mike Leach offense is based on crossing routes across the middle, and they said, all right, you can have them all day long. We're going to give you those crossing routes. We're going to let you get in behind the linebackers, but our safeties and cornerbacks are going to tackle well in the open field. And that's all they had to do. Yep. And it snowed. Let's point out here that Washington State ran the ball 24 times. That's how messed up this game was. Normally they're throwing it 60 times a game. Yes. They had to run the ball because that's how bad it was snowing. It was,
and then Mike Leach like,
right. It just, they're gonna get over the hump someday, but this day was not that day. So yeah, what we get is the Big Ten title game has actually been moved to Levi Stadium.
Yep,
and it'll be on Friday night. Between the University of Washington and Utah, because that game is going to be big defense and running backs. Yep. So if you're interested in Big Ten football and want to see it twice, if you want to see Big Ten football, Big Ten men football, watch the Pac-12 championship game on Saturday. It hurts me to say that. If you want to actually watch an air raid offense go off, go ahead and watch that Big Ten championship game.
and they should start that game at like 10 o'clock, just for the sake of synergy. I'd be good with
9 p.m. Central Time, because it's Indianapolis. But yeah, let's go.
AJ, do you have any other observations about last weekend?
This is just, I'm going to go back to the A&M, the LSU and A&M game. The actual biggest thing happened at the end of the game, which no one watched because it was 7 overtimes and everybody went, all right, fine, I'm going to bed. I'm done.
I was in bed at 8:30 that night, so I none of this I was aware of until the following day.
A&M coaching staff was talking a little reckless.
Oh God.
And they decided to test rural Louisiana LSU running back and former New England Patriot running back Kevin Falk. Kevin Falk wears basketball shorts under his khakis. Don't test him. He's also director of player operations for LSU. And some A&M staffers and potential head coach family members got chippy, and Kevin Falk almost ended some dude's soul in a picture. I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you saw the picture of this kid who clearly resembles Jimbo Fisher. And I need to, yeah, it's a picture of this kid with Kevin Falk's hands coming directly for his neck.
Yeah.
So yeah, somebody tried to test Kevin Falk. Don't scrap with Kevin Falk. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. So yeah, this is the new rivalry.
Yes.
And I am totally fine with LSU and A&M. I just want these like Texas, Louisiana rednecks to go off on each other every year, and I am here for it. Give me my turkey and my LSU and A&M, and let's go.
Yep. Welcome to rivalry weekend. We need to name this one.
Oh, speaking of rivalry week, you guys refer to the game as Rivalry Week, which is the correct way to do it. That's how I named it in my notes last week. And then I asked my Google Home to pronounce the episode that was playing, and it said, "You are listening." Oh, hold on, let me see if I can pull this up.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
It's 100% perfect. If I could find this video rather quickly, here it is, and we'll just go. Hey Google, what's playing?
You're listening to episode 0 of the Carla and Crappy Show. Carla and Crappy Show, the 2018 Rivalry Week edition.
Rivalry
Week. So even Google Home recognizes that it's Rivalry Week and it's Championship Week. You know what? I think we need to name the episode Championship Week just to see if it'll pronounce it championship.
I'll figure out something. A creative. We'll do a phonetic spelling in the title, and we'll see what they do there. We have the major conferences to talk about, but first, as we would do on a normal show, we need to let AJ take us through what's happening with the group of 5 championship games.
That's right.
And then and certainly, Carla, if you have thoughts about any one of them, like maybe the Conference USA game, maybe something like that, feel free to weigh in. But AJ, what you got?
We're going to start. We're going through all 5 because it is the group of 5.
Yes.
G5.
5.
So Friday, starting an hour before the big Pac-12 Big Ten championship game, you have Northern Illinois at Buffalo.
Yes.
Buffalo coming in 10-2. This game has an over/under of 49.5. This game is in Buffalo. And I imagine the weather in the city of Buffalo sometime in early December is
going to be miserable.
Probably.
Yeah.
The weather would not be swift either way. I mean,
that's true.
The plains of Northern Illinois not pleasant this time of year.
I'm just thinking of this. I'm just thinking of the amount of snow that can be generated by Lake Ontario.
Sure.
So yeah, I expect that game to be a mess. But Tyree Jackson is still incredible, even though the OU, Ohio University, whomped them.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that Tyree Jackson is incredible. You should watch that game. That's Friday night. Flip back and forth between the 2 games. Just really ease into this championship weekend.
Sure.
So yeah, start there. Buffalo's favored by 3.5. So I do expect Buffalo to win the game. They are the clear best team in the MAC. But hey, it's Buffalo and their 10-day forecast. Let's go to Saturday here. We're breaking this down. Ooh, evening rain. Neat.
Oh, wow. That just sounds
PM showers at 37 degrees. Yay.
That's the temperature that you actually would rather have it snow.
Right. Just snow. Just be snow. We don't need rain. Snow. Just let it freeze. I'm going to move into Saturday, noon. Fun Belt. We're starting it early. It's University of Louisiana-Lafayette, aka Louisiana, the Fighting Cajuns, going to Boone to go play App State. This one also has a real low over-under. What was the final over-under on this game? Currently 58.5. So it's higher than the MAC, but App State's favored by 17. App State is a really, really good team. And what did I say before? ULL versus ULM playing for the right to get wrecked by either Troy or App State.
True.
So, hi, App State. You're real good. So I fully believe App State's going to win this game. There are clear bests in a lot of these Group of 5 conferences. So I think App State just comes in and really takes it to ULL. And I think App State will get a nice bowl placement, but they're obviously not going to get any. They're not getting the Group of 5 bid. That moves us to 1:30. UAB at. They're going to it's Murfreesboro, correct?
Yes, it is. MTSU.
Just down the road from you, Carla.
Yes, it is, and also where I teach.
Are you going to the game?
I'm not. I have a dress rehearsal for my concert on Saturday morning. And
how did they not plan around this? They should have recognized
right?
MTSU is about week 5 turnaround and rescheduled.
Yep, it's just the happy holiday season and singing in a church choir. That's what happens this time of year.
Okay.
But no, the campus is actually it's a weird situation because campus doesn't normally get super pumped about games, but I could tell today. I got back to school today after being on Thanksgiving break, and you could actually sense a little bit of energy on campus today. It's something that even though it was cold, like you could kind of feel this, like, hey, are you sticking around for the game on Saturday? Even though it's the end of the semester. So I anticipate the Floyd to be a hot mess on Saturday. And the weather here should actually be pretty good. It might be rainy, but it's supposed to warm up. It's flipping cold down here right now. Same temperature as when we left Pittsburgh last night. But yeah, I'll say this a bunch of times when we get to the bigger conferences. It is, and AJ is probably thinking this too, it is really, really hard to beat a team twice in the same season.
Yes.
Let alone in literally back-to-back weeks in the same facility. They literally played this game 3 days ago.
Yep. And
now they have to go play it again. And you have to wonder, they beat them the first time. You would think that Middle should win this game again, but that's a huge ask to beat a team for 8 straight quarters. Middle's going to have to play really, really well in this game. Stock still wants this, though. This is his like 7th year of eligibility or something like that. But he's finally done. He's not hurt. He made it through last week's game fine. Yeah, pretty much. He's been around forever. In fact, I think he already finished his master's. That's kind of where he is now. But Middle's gonna have to play really, really well to win this game after playing them last week. But True Blue, let's go Blue Raiders.
There we go.
High temperature. The temperature is going to be 65 at kickoff. Yeah. So nice and warm in Murfreesboro.
I'm wearing shorts for that game.
Right, you would. You wear shorts to a game right now.
Probably.
UAB over under on that game is 45.5. Middle Tennessee State currently favored by 1.5. So, basically, Vegas is thinking the same thing. We're going to give you the home field advantage, only just so. Go ahead and try and play the exact same team and beat them the exact same way in the exact same stadium.
2 weeks in a row.
So we're going to move on down to a game that I really had high hopes for, and now I have deep, deep sadness for. It's Memphis and UCF at 3:30 in the AAC game. McKenzie Milton, get better soon. He had a horrific leg injury against USF in the W, but I hope he gets better. He's an incredible, incredible player. Over under on this game is 64.5. I think if Milton was playing, it'd be 74.5.
Yeah.
UCF is only favored by 3. So this is a lot closer than it should be. UCF didn't look like they really dropped off a ton after Milton left the game, but Milton is a very, very special player, and he's going to be missed in this game. I think Memphis does have a legitimate shot at UCF. But I think UCF is is not going to – I think UCF gets the win, but it's only going to be just so instead of the – and by the way, remember last year, this game ended 62-59. So it's not like it's not like it's out of the world and Milton played in last year's game.
Right.
So
I'm gonna throw before we switch games, I'm gonna throw this out there real quick. Heisman committee, do the right thing and invite McKenzie Milton to New York this year. He should have gotten an invite last year. His numbers aren't as good this year, but dang it. This might be the last time.
Let him hang out there.
Let him hang out. Exactly. Invite him and let him be there. He's not going to win, but let the kid be there because he deserves it for his career. Send him to New York, please.
Good.
Okay. I'm off my soapbox.
Now. Finally, and this hurts me a little bit because this is not being played at its proper time. Fresno going to Boise at 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody on the East Coast, you get to see the blue turf and watch Boise State play on it and not have to stay up till 2 in the morning.
It's still going to be daylight out there.
Yeah.
Which is what's giving me the weird vibe. Because what did I say last week? You go to the blue turf at night.
Yes.
The murder Smurfs will get you. They're not playing this game at entirely night, although the game is kicking off. This is Mountain Time, Mountain West time. So this game is going to kick off at 5:45 p.m. So it's
it'll be dark before halftime. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. I can only imagine that Boise's weather is going to be just spectacular at about 5:45 p.m. on a Saturday. Oh, yeah, it's going to be gnarly. 37 degrees, mostly cloudy, and then just getting colder from there. This is going to be another one of those, big, heavy, run the ball, big stuffing defense sort of game. Over-under's 50. Boise's favored by 2.5, which means this is a pick'em game as far as Vegas is concerned. I think Boise wins, takes out Fresno, wins the Mountain West. And so here's a fun consideration. Follow me here. UCF right now is the clear UCF is the clear group of 5 champion. If they win the AAC championship, they go into they go into a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yes.
If they lose, the Mountain West champion has a shot at the New Year's Six Bowl. Yeah, and you might get Boise playing someone else. You might get Boise in the Fiesta Bowl if that happens. And
we know what happens when Boise gets the Fiesta Bowl
to play a team like Oklahoma.
Yeah, so, right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the group of 5. All of the games should be pretty good. The early games look like they have some pretty clear favorites, but later on in the day, there's some pretty solid opportunities for an upset. Go Blue Raiders.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good with that. We're good with that. And guys, listen. We're gonna get to the big boys here. But watch those games because they're gonna be awesome. It's gonna be this. Look, this is a great weekend. And don't limit yourself by watching just the Power 5 conferences here because that would be your loss. Having said that,
also just real quick, this is also me reaching out to the fan base and reminding everybody the bowls do not start on New Year's Day. The bowls start on December 15th,
and we will get to that.
We will get to them. But
Bowlapalooza. Bowlapalooza.
Go watch
the boys and girls.
Go watch some 6 and 6 teams. Go watch some 6 and 6 teams just play for their last game. A lot of people leaving it all on the field.
Yep.
This is where the Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl. I don't even know they haven't even decided who's playing in these bowls yet. But you should watch some of these dumb bowl games because somebody's winning a trophy full of T-shirts or some nonsense like that, and we should all just be thrilled with this.
We should. Let's start on Friday in Santa Clara. The beef division champion Utah versus the pork division champion Washington, playing for the Big Ten championship.
I'm sorry. It's a tofurkey. division champion.
Not with these schools. Okay, not with these two schools. Not with these. If we had like L.A. and San Francisco, maybe.
You haven't been to Seattle, have you?
Washington is favored by 5 in this game. Carla, let's start with you. What do you think?
Okay, so I just said I was going to say this a lot during this game, during this show. It is hard to beat a team twice in the same season, and here we are again. These two teams met back in week 3. Washington won that game 21-7. We've already talked about this. That this game is going to be a defensive affair, not your typical Pac-12 championship game. Big Ten fans rejoice everywhere.
Woo!
And here's the one key piece of this game is the fact that Utah has had to replace both its starting quarterback and its starting running back in consecutive weeks. Yes. But so far hasn't seemed to have lost a lot of its mojo. The challenge here is that was just fine against BYU and Colorado. What's that going to be against a Washington defense? And from the North, it's felt all year like the Pac-12 North has been the stronger division out of the conference. Pac-12 South has been a hot mess of flaming garbage all season.
Herm Edwards is taking a team to a bowl. How bad could it be?
Right. and meanwhile, Arizona's going to sit at home. What a mess the Pac-12 South is. But here's the thing about the Pac-12 South. And so immediately you're like, okay, sure, fine. Washington wins this game. And I think Washington does win this game. But the caveat here is the fact that Utah is actually a really good football team. Yes. And they have good wins on their schedule. Their losses are to legitimate teams. They lost to Washington in week 3 and then Wazoo in week 4, which there's no shame in losing to both of those teams. They're both ranked. But Utah beat Oregon. So this is a Utes team that has the capability of winning this game. I'm going to give the edge to Washington here because of the experience of Jake Browning and the fact that Utah has had to make that shuffle on offense. If we would have had a Utah team that had an offense that had been firing a little bit longer, I would say this game is going to be a toss-up pick'em, but I do like Washington in this game for that reason. But if you like defense, this is going to be a good game to watch on Friday night.
Okay. AJ, thoughts?
It appears that Utah is only capable of scoring 41 or 42 points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 games. They scored 40, 41, or 42 points.
But that's probably enough.
Oh, that's plenty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm expecting like one of those 27-20 affairs of some sort. This is honestly going to be a pretty good game, even though it's going to be played in front of 4 people, because this game kicks off at 5 p.m. Pacific time
on a Friday.
On a Friday in a city with awful traffic. No one is going to this game unless you are a distinct Utah or Washington fan.
Travel advice, boys and girls. Be there if you're going to the game. Be in the parking lot by noon. Just do it.
Yeah, just
save yourself some.
Park yourselves in a parking spot. I'm waiting on. Honest to God, this is just me kind of veering a little bit on the Pac-12 game. I fully expect the Pac-12 to move their championship game to Las Vegas when the Raiders Stadium is done.
Yeah.
That's just it's going to be easy for them to do.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Yeah. So we're looking at we have 2 teams that by and large they do play very. How do I want to call this? Big Ten-y football. But I'm going to give the edge to Washington. As Carla said, Utah's replaced their starting running back and starting quarterback, and they had to feed off of the Holy War in order to actually beat BYU last week. By the way, that turnaround at the end of that game was real fun. And I'm pretty sure that if it were any other game, multiple players would have been called for unsportsmanlike taunting penalties after touchdowns. But Chippy is as Chippy does. Go Utes. So I would say that this game is
nice Mormon boys. No, we don't need that. They're nice Mormon boys.
I still miss BYU punching people. Reminder, BYU got into a fight with Miami. Got into a fight with Memphis in Miami. And BYU started it. So they play. There's a chippiness that I think was missing from BYU. Utah's got it, but I think Washington wins this game.
Okay. Washington won the previous game 21-7. That was fairly early in the season. As everyone's mentioned, the Utes have since lost their starting quarterback and top running back. The replacements have been solid, though. And if you look, Utah is actually, I mean, if we're talking in a statistical sense, Utah has a slightly better offense than Washington does. Now, this if you dig into statistics, you can kind of get hung up on some stuff that does not really meaningless, because they're also really even on defense as well. So picking this game, I wonder. I think you kind of look at the team that isn't necessarily bummed about the 9-3 record that it brings in. I think you look at the team that has a chance to make an improbable trip to the Rose Bowl versus the one that entered the season with national championship hopes. And I think that means, hi Cookie, that Utah is going to win this game. So that's where I'm going, and my younger cat agrees with me. Let's go to a Saturday. The Big 12 championship game takes place in Jerryland, Texas, versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma is favored by 7.5 points. I obviously will be paying very close attention to this game. But Carla, let's start with what you think.
Gee, I wonder why. The football gods here just really wanted us to say Red River Rivalry.
Red River Rivalry.
So here we are again, and then let's start this one the same way I started the last one. It is really hard to beat a team twice in the same season, and I think that's exactly where we're sitting in for this game. Texas won the game last time, and I remember when we were watching, which we started referring to as the Red River Shootout, because that's what that game turned into. I remember sitting and watching that game with my husband, and we both looked at each other in the fourth quarter while Oklahoma was mounting its comeback and said, in what spectacular fashion is Texas going to find a way to lose this game? Right? Because that's like what we've gotten used to with the whole Texas thing, is that they will find a way to miraculously implode at the end of the game. And they didn't in that game. They found a way to hold on to win that game. Here's the challenge now that we've passed like 7 or 8 weeks since that game. Believe it or not, the Oklahoma defense might actually be this much improved. And because of that, and here's why I say that. Because, okay, the Oklahoma defense is still terrible, but Texas' defense is still marginally terrible. Oklahoma's defense is the reason why the Sooners won in Morgantown.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
2 plays on defense. They made 2 more plays on defense than West Virginia did, and they won that stupid football game in Morgantown, which I was stunned by that because, we both picked West Virginia in that game, because that's what happens on a Friday night in Morgantown. Like, West Virginia is supposed to win that game. Oklahoma's defense figured out a way to force 2 turnovers. Those 2 scores were the reason why Oklahoma won that football game. Kyler Murray in the offense is still running on all cylinders. Texas hit a speed bump 2 consecutive weeks with 2 consecutive losses in heartbreak fashion both times, but they found a way to bounce back from that. But here's the thing. If you look at how they've played the last 3 weeks since those 2 losses, they're not playing quite as sharp as they were. Now, true, Ellinger was hurt for a little bit of that, and so he missed some time, wasn't playing as consistently. But I look at last week, right? And you're playing a really bad Kansas team, and you only hold on to beat them by a score. And I wonder where Texas is going up in this game. Now, it's true. I mean, they want to beat Oklahoma twice in the same year, but gosh, you've got to believe Oklahoma has revenge on their minds. And so here's the thing. I think Oklahoma wins this football game. I'm not sure it matters because of the defense. I still think if Ohio State beats Northwestern in dominant fashion, I still think there's a possibility that the committee would leapfrog Ohio State over Oklahoma. But I think Oklahoma has revenge on their mind. They can smell the playoff. They're hoping for an Alabama win, that they can sneak in there, and I think that gives them the motivation to win this football game. Okay,
we'll talk about the Ohio State winning in dominant fashion thing in a couple of games here, because I'm skeptical about that. But AJ, what do you think about this one?
Can we talk about the fact that Oklahoma and West Virginia played a game that ended 59-56, and we're not talking about it because Texas A&M and LSU went 74-72?
I know. That is a shame. That is a shame, because it was an awesome game.
Right.
And that Oklahoma won it with 2 strip sacks, basically. The defensive plays is just spectacular. But yeah, that was such a great game.
Yeah, Oklahoma, you're not winning, or Texas, you're not winning this game. I mean, it's going to be super fun. And by the way, this is the game that like Texas and Oklahoma boosters, this is what they want the Wed Wibble Wibblewee to actually be. They want it in Jerry World. They don't want it at the Cotton Bowl. The corporate sponsors of that game, AT&T and all these other companies, they want it at Jerry World because they want the nice corporate boxes and the catering and all of the fans and the traditionalists at both schools. And it's Oklahoma and Texas, so there's a lot of traditionalists at both of those schools are both very they wanted it at the Cotton Bowl. They wanted it at the Texas State Fair. They wanted it all these things. This is the game the way that I think the corporate interests want. However, Oklahoma's winning this game, but I'm kind of with Carla. I think the committee is going to look at that Oklahoma defense and go, "You're stopping what? What are you?" A team that can keep up scoring wise. You saw West Virginia do it. Texas did beat them. A team with any sort of actual defense that can hold down Oklahoma. There's nothing. Oklahoma's not going to be able to fight back against it because none of the teams in the Big 12 actually have a defense. I mean, look at what Army did. Army just held on to the ball.
Sure.
So if there's a way for Texas to win this game, Texas needs to play the same game they played back in October.
Yep.
They need to play out of their gourds to win this game.
Yep.
Oklahoma is playing with a playoff spot on the line. They're not going to lose that game. Yep. So Oklahoma, I'll take them. I'll take them in the points. By the way, Kyler Murray has thrown 37 TDs and 7 picks this year. Just think about that.
Gotcha. I gotcha. And I really appreciate both of you guys trying to get Ohio State into the playoff. I'm still, and again, we'll talk more about this, but I would remind you that just 2 weeks ago, Ohio State gave up 50 points to Maryland.
We're not saying that it would end well if it happened.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. This game, okay, Big 12 game. Cotton Bowl, as AJ mentioned, you're outside, it's on grass, older, kind of no frills building, and that worked out well for Texas and a more physical approach when you want to control the tempo, you want to beat a rival. Jerryland, indoors and slick and comfortable and a fast surface. And I just it's perfect for a team that wants to roll, wants to score a lot, and perfect for a team that is hoping to make a big impression and get into the college football playoff. If I'm an Oklahoma fan, I would be concerned with the rematch against like WVU or Oklahoma State if that was the title game, because as we've seen recently, there ain't no defense to stop those guys. Although got a little bit against WVU last weekend. But Texas does not score at that rate, and Oklahoma has a motivation to take care of business for this game. SEC. And this is a game that could potentially really throw a lot of wrenches into the works here. Alabama versus Georgia. We're playing in Atlanta. Alabama is favored by 13. I'm going to give you my pick right now. We're just going to do it. Georgia is really good. They're not that good, and Alabama's going to win this. Carla.
Yeah, I want to hear you. I want to hear you as an Ohio State fan say "Roll Tide."
No. But
Alabama would win this game.
I think this one is that easy to break down. What do you think?
Yeah, so my one comment on this game is the fact that what was Georgia's one loss this year was to an LSU team, which before they gave up 70 million points last weekend to Texas A&M, had a good defense. And we talked about this during and that's skewed because of how many overtimes they went, and, so that messes all that up. But we talked about that game after Georgia lost, and how Jake Fromm said that the LSU defense was disguising coverages, and that really kind of messed with the way that he was playing calls. Like, he was baffled by the LSU defense, right? That was the LSU defense.
Oh, young fella, you have no idea.
And so here's I know. And so here's the thing. Like, these two teams put on one of the most entertaining games ever last year in the national championship game. And I would like for it to be just as entertaining, but I really just don't see that this year. I think this Alabama defense is that good, and Tua has that many more snaps underneath him at this point that no, this is Roll Tide. I don't know if I'd take the points. I think it could be a 10-point game. They're getting 13.5. I think 13.5 might be a little high. 10 points feels about right to me, but yeah, Tide wins.
I'd give the points. I am that confident. AJ, what do you think?
Hey, Jake. It's your old buddy, AJ. We've never met before. if you think LSU was throwing confusing looks at you, buddy, Nick Saban's going to turn your brain to a TV test pattern.
Oh.
You have no idea, bud. This is not going to be fun for Georgia. Alabama is not fair. This is where I'm comparing them to that undefeated run that New England had, and what the 2009 season where they had Randy Moss and they were just beating people by 30 or whatever.
Yes.
We're still in the middle of the 30 run. I don't necessarily know that like a plucky upstart team with a halfway okay defense can stop Alabama's. Like, this is the scary part. Alabama's defense is just as good as it has been, and now they have an offense.
Yeah.
You used to be able to like hold them back and try and get into like that 9-6, 6-3 sort of game that LSU tried to do last year. Nah, they got Tua now. And you do know who's a current commit to the Alabama Crimson Tide for the 2019 season, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Tua's younger brother.
Yep.
Who is currently enrolled at Hoover High School, just down the road.
Lovely Hoover, Alabama.
Wonder why. So this is Alabama has an offense that they've never had before. They have competent quarterback play. They don't have game managers. They don't have one big running back. They have 3 different running backs to kill you with. Georgia has a good defense. They don't have Roquan Smith anymore.
Yeah.
Roll Tide. This isn't even close. That 13 number is low to me. Give me Alabama minus anything. This is, honest to God, this is not going to be fun. DeAndre Swift from Georgia has had a lovely year. It's going to be a real strug life of a day for him. And by the way, what ends up happening to this Georgia team at the end of the game is when Alabama wins the game and they're presenting the trophy and there's confetti, that's actually just Georgia. That's just the team that has been turned into confetti being shot out of the cannon.
Next up, we have the ACC title game, Pitt versus Clemson in Charlotte. Clemson is favored by 26.5 points. Carla, is there a chance?
So here is the only reason why I say don't totally sleep on this game. I'm not saying to watch this game, but don't totally sleep on it, because go back 2 seasons. Pitt, and we talked about this earlier this year, Pitt has a tendency to hang around in the game or even win a game that it has absolutely no business being in.
Hey, remember when they ruined Miami's season last year?
They ruined Miami's season last year. They tried to ruin Clemson's season the year before. So they have done this before, and this is a role that Pitt loves. You can go all the way back to the backyard brawl years, and this is a role that Pitt savors. And here they are in a championship game that they really have no business being in. They had no business winning the division, but they did. And now they're playing the number 2 team in the country. And you have to think that locker room is just absolutely motivated, especially because they almost freaking beat Notre Dame. So this is a team that is capable of doing this. Clemson. This is a prime spot for Clemsoning. Do not overlook Pitt and punch your ticket as the number 2 team in the country to the college football playoff. Do not sleep on this game. But that being said, Clemson should win this game easily. But keep your eye on this one. There's a lot of games happening on Saturday. Follow the AJ method of keeping an eye on this score and flip over if you need to, because Pitt could make this game more interesting than anybody's giving them credit for.
AJ?
This is where you're looking at your Twitter feed and you just see eyeball emojis at a scoreboard tweet.
Yep.
Right? You're like, what? The Pitt super weapon is fully charged. They laid an absolute egg against Miami last week. 27-3.
Yep.
Getting them sleepy.
Yep.
Clemson thinks they're going to walk into this game. Do not be surprised when Pitt is within a score, if not tied, if not leading at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And Clemson slept on them. Do not do that. Pitt will jump up and get you. Are you ranked number 2 late in the season? Would be a darn shame if Pitt and a glove box full of French fries had to go and ruin that. So this is what's plausible. All right. I don't think the Pitt's actually going to win this game, but if they do,
don't.
I don't know what chunk of Howard's Rock is going to have to come off in order for them to atone for this sort of thing. By the way, there is a security camera mounted towards Howard's Rock. I've seen the other side of it. So
I'll keep that in mind. I mean, since 2015, when Dabo's run really got started, there are only 3 teams that have beaten Clemson, and that's Alabama, and they've done that twice, and that's Syracuse last year, and the University of Pittsburgh. The thing, the reality here that I would remind you of is the season-ending injury to center Jimmy Morrissey. Pitt lost him against Miami last week, and that's a rough thing. He was really he was kind of the anchor of the offensive lines. That's going to be a tough thing for them. But all those things you guys said, they apply, and I mean the only rational thing to do here is to pick Clemson. But man, don't sleep on this one because Pitt's going to keep this tight. I would say I would take Pitt in the points in a heartbeat because I think it's going to be closer than 26.5. We wrap up with the Big Ten title game, which some might mistake for the Pac-12 title game. My Buckeyes versus the Northwestern Wildcats in Indianapolis. My Buckeyes are favored by 14 points, which I think is dumb, but I'll see what you guys think too. Carla.
I get to say this for the 15th consecutive season, or however many times we've done this show. Big Ten. And Crappy knows what I'm going to say here. Stop playing this game indoors.
Go play outside.
Go play outside. Go play in Soldier Field. This is the only freaking game you play all season indoors in the entire conference. Play this game at Soldier Field. Okay, off of that soapbox for another year.
Yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about this game because I figured you guys would handle most of this. So my thought here is that Northwestern is probably, and we talked about this earlier in the year, that Northwestern is probably the most baffling team in the Big Ten, as they have losses. They have a loss to Akron, and
Duke.
And they beat Ohio State, right? Or no, they didn't beat Ohio State. They
beat Wisconsin.
They beat Wisconsin. Yeah.
And so here Northwestern Wildcats, enjoy your trip to Indianapolis, savor it, get out of the snow in Chicago, go enjoy your trip into the Big Ten title game. This is their first trip there since the Big Ten and State created this game. Enjoy it, savor it. I think Ohio State wins this game. I think it's going to be closer just because of the problems we've talked about with Ohio State, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, though it looked like you saw them last week. I didn't see a minute of the Ohio State-Michigan game. Thanks, family. So I'm going to rely on you guys for analysis on that. But, we've talked about the concerns that we've had with certain aspects of the Ohio State game. Do I think this game's going to be close? Sure, because both teams are playing in an environment that they're not used to playing in. Because it's indoors. So I think there's some wiggle room here, and I think this game might be a lot closer. But I don't think Northwestern is going to win this game. I would put my money on Ohio State in a heartbeat. Maybe the line's a little off, but yeah, Buckeyes win.
Okay. AJ, what do you think?
I'm just going through Northwestern's schedule right now.
Right.
They were 1-4.
Yeah, they were.
Going into the Michigan State game in week 5.
And they beat Michigan State.
They beat Michigan State, and everybody's like, oh, good job, Michigan State. You lost to Northwestern. Then they beat Nebraska when Nebraska was not doing so hot. The one here I want to reference is at Rutgers. They went to Piscataway and won. I'm going to give you guys a guess as to what the score here is. Go ahead. What was the final score of that game? Northwestern wins, but what was the final score?
I looked at this and I don't remember.
24-10.
Okay, Crappy says 24-10. Carla, what do you say?
I want to say it was like 31-14.
It was 18-15.
18-15.
That is a Big Ten ass score.
Barn burner in Piscataway.
I was going to say, well, it is Piscataway, so there's that.
Traditional Big Ten school.
Yes.
Traditional Big Ten town. It's honestly, there was 2 touchdowns scored in the entire game. Everything else was field goals. This game was 12-7 at halftime. Whew, man, that feels good, doesn't it? So they weren't doing so well. They turned it around in Wisconsin. They beat Wisconsin handily.
Yeah, they owned Wisconsin in that game.
And then they had a shot at Notre Dame. Notre Dame escaped that game with a late touchdown from Ian Book. Notre Dame was only up by 3 with 7 minutes left. So they escaped. They got one last drive and they won. And then they won the Big Ten West at Iowa 14-10. Again, Big Ten West football.
That's big boy football.
Yes, it is.
That is large human, terrible offense football.
Yep.
I think Ohio State really does win this game. If Ohio State would like to go play Alabama, because I don't see that. If Clemson wins, Notre Dame is the 3.
Yeah.
The college football playoff is pretty straightforward about the fact that they just order you by record.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, pro tip, if you ever want to see what the college football standings or the college football playoff rankings are going to be, just look at the AP poll on Sunday. It's the same. They generally take the same thing. I have beef with them putting Michigan ahead of UCF, but whatever. I would say that Ohio State has to go out and absolutely wreck Northwestern.
Yep.
Crappy, you recall the 2014 Big Ten title game. They go out, they beat Michigan, and if I recall that year, they were good, but this was that was the Virginia Tech year.
Lost an opening game to Virginia Tech. Went through the rest of the season without a loss. Beat Michigan, but lost JT Barrett.
That's right. They lost JT Barrett,
and then you go into the title game against Wisconsin with a guy who's played. You can count on one hand the number of snaps that he's had during the season.
But
57, I think, is what we put up on Wisconsin.
But the idea here was they beat Michigan, they were doing okay, and then they wrecked Wisconsin, and that's what gave them the 4 seed over Baylor and TCU that year.
Yep.
I think the same thing would have to happen this year. If Ohio State wants to go to the playoff, they have to turn Northwestern to lunch meat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to. I think they win, but I don't think they turn them to lunch meat. And if Oklahoma wins, they're in the playoff.
I agree, and I think
they got to win the Big Ten. Here's what they have to do: they have to win the Big Ten title game by 21 plus.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma either has to win the Big 12 title game by 3 or lose outright.
If Oklahoma wins, Ohio State has to absolutely destroy Northwestern, to the tune of what Ohio State did to Wisconsin in 2014.
Yep.
And I think if just a win for Oklahoma, win for Ohio State, I don't think I think Oklahoma's loss against Texas in a rivalry game is going to look a lot better to the committee than Ohio State's loss to Purdue. And Ohio State's loss to Purdue was ugly in every sense.
And I would also add in Ohio State, not to really turn that knife, but I would add in Ohio State's almost lost to Maryland.
Yeah.
I would add in their almost lost to Nebraska.
Uncomfortable against Nebraska, uncomfortable against Minnesota. This is it's a thing. It is.
I think there is a level of Oklahoma has a better overall resume. If we want to get into the basketball terms, Oklahoma has a better resume.
Yeah.
If they go out and they beat Northwestern by 10, let's call it a 31. Let's call it a 30-20 game, 31-21 game. Ohio State's going to the Rose Bowl. If Ohio State wins 51-10, there's a shot at the playoff.
Maybe.
But I think that also implies that Georgia loses to Alabama.
Yes. No question. If something screws up in the SEC title game, there's no question that Ohio State is. Can
we turn the chaos knob a little bit here?
No, let me do this. I'm as an Ohio State fan, I would be perfectly happy with Rose Bowl. I will say that right now. You always want a shot. You do. I know it's not going to be. Well, I don't know. It is what it is. We weren't supposed to beat Miami in 2002. We weren't supposed to beat Alabama in 2014. So if you get a shot, take a shot. That's fine. I would be perfectly happy with the Rose Bowl. I will say about the Big Ten title game, Michigan is capable of running the offense that could have given Ohio State problems, and for some reason Jimmy did not do that. Northwestern does. Northwestern has the kind of sort of the jailbreak offense that has given Ohio State problems all season long. See Minnesota, see Maryland, see Nebraska.
TCU.
TCU and Ohio State's defense actually helped pull away in that game. The defense has been better-ish. Maryland notwithstanding, but I mean it's a nice effort against Michigan last week. I said before what I think will happen. The line of 14 I think is dumb. I would think Ohio State's going to win this by. I would be thrilled by a 10-point win. I would be thrilled by any win, but I think a 10-point win is probably about it. And I don't think that's going to be enough if Oklahoma also beats Texas to get Ohio State in the playoff, and I'm good with that. So let me do this one thing. I have to find my script. Boys and girls, you can watch the Carla and Crappy Show for the duration of the college football season, which ain't much longer, by searching Carla and Crappy Show on YouTube or Facebook. And if you prefer to have Carla and Crappy in your skull, you will find the podcast version at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn, as well as on your favorite social channels, where all three of us blab about this a lot. If you like the show, please rate and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Carla, you first. Any final thoughts?
Here's hoping for chaos. I don't know. It feels too formulaic at this point. I mean, it feels like we've got a solid 1, 2, and 3, and we kind of know how 4 is going to play out.
Chaos would be what? Georgia winning?
I'm not even sure.
Do you want me to turn this chaos knob?
I'm not even
You're next. AJ, you're up next.
Georgia winning creates chaos, because I think all that does is it moves Alabama to 4 and bumps everybody else up 1 and puts Georgia at 3. I don't see that as being chaos.
Right. Okay. AJ, your version of chaos is.
Let me turn this chaos knob a little bit. Northwestern beats Ohio State.
Okay.
Texas beats Oklahoma.
Okay.
Georgia beats Alabama.
Okay.
Pitt beats Clemson. That leaves you with what? A Notre Dame, Georgia, Bama.
God, who would be 4?
who would be for?
That's a good question.
And the answer, kids, is your UCF Golden Knights. Let's get
not without the
UCF
quarterback.
in the
They will not do that without the quarterback.
Not
They will
without
not do it.
They would never give it to UCF because that would involve them actually having to watch Group of 5 football. Listen, Chris Howard, you're as my president will always be from the Robert Morris University.
Absolutely.
My president is Chris Howard. Go Bobby. My president is Chris Howard, and Chris Howard is awesome, and he is on the college football playoff committee.
Yes, he is.
Darn tootin'. Chris, eyeballs, because I know you watch the show. He doesn't. Eyeballs. Do the world a favor. Let's get some Group of 5 flavor in this. We need this. We need this for just so we can say it happened. But this is the year that I've always thought that this would be the year where they go, all right, fine, let's put UCF in. And then they hand them directly to the gaping maw of Alabama.
Yeah, I know. That accomplishes exactly nothing. So, Fresno State?
Fresno's not ranked high enough. They'd have to jump massively. Fresno's ranked 25. If Fresno beat Boise, I think Fresno is up there with UCF.
Yeah.
But if Fresno beats Boise, they're only jumping to like 20.
Yeah.
They're not getting up any higher than that. UCF is only in the top 10 because they are completely undefeated.
Sure.
Honestly, it's at that point right now. Do you put in? I still think Bama gets in. I still think it would be
with the loss. Yes,
Georgia,
yes,
Bama, and
I agree.
Probably, yeah. That blows up pretty quickly because what's funny is there's only 3 one-loss teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State. There's 3 undefeated teams, and there's only 2 10-2 teams. There's Michigan, Wazoo. Sorry, 4 in the top 25. Boise, Fresno. One of those is going to have 3 losses. And then Wazoo and Michigan. Everybody else has 3 or 4 losses. Like this has been a wildly if you take out the chalk at the top, there's been a huge amount of parity. Anybody, any given Saturday can win or lose.
Yep.
Which hasn't really happened. That last year I think there was a lot more chalk, a lot more 1-loss teams, 2-loss teams. This year's a lot of 3-loss teams because people are actually taking chances to try and make the playoffs. So if we could turn the chaos lever and the 4 gets real weird real fast if that happens. So
well, and here's the other thing, and I'll just throw this out there and let it go. But if Pitt beats Clemson, does that matter?
Yes.
But I mean, talking about what you just talked about, you'd have a 1-loss Clemson team losing to a Pitt team.
That's 7-5.
But you just said, assuming the scenario that you just put together, if Pitt beats Clemson, does that matter? Or does Clemson just drop to number 4?
I think Clemson would drop further than that. But I think the only reason Alabama and Georgia is a different scenario is because Georgia's already number 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're 1 losing to a 4. That's not a huge jump.
Yeah.
Pitt's not even in the top 25.
Right.
Right. You're losing to an unranked team. So Clemson, I would say, probably drops. If they lost that game, they probably dropped to 7.
I think Clemson's probably out. Yeah.
Clemson's out if they lose.
But do you take a 1-loss team over a 2-loss team, regardless of who that loss is to?
I would say that's when they start getting into like conference championships and common opponents and all this other transitive win nonsense. And
the transitive property of college football. I love it. The
transitive property of college football. That's not how math works. But honestly, this is where I'm interested to see is I fully believe that Alabama and Clemson are going to win. They're going to be 1-2. Notre Dame's going to be 3. So. And it's Georgia drops because they go to 11-2.
Right.
And then you have Oklahoma and Ohio State effectively, who wins their championship harder.
Right.
Like who wins, and then you have to take into consideration Northwestern versus Texas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if Oklahoma beats Texas by 3 and Ohio State beats Northwestern by 25,
yep.
Then maybe.
Then we have a conversation.
Then maybe. Boys and girls, it's going to be a fun weekend.
It is.
And Charlie and I are going to be parked on the couch on Saturday, making sure we don't miss a single thing. The next thing that you guys have to do after this weekend is watch for Bowlapalooza.
Bowlapalooza.
Because it's coming. It's coming,
Best
boys
show
and
of the
girls.
year.
We will have that ready for you about the beginning of the month. And until then, enjoy this weekend, and we will get you set up for bowl season. AJ, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Carla, thank you as always.
Yep. Thanks as always.
Guys, thank you for watching. We will see you for Bowlapalooza in a couple weeks. See you.